Hey everyone, welcome to the Crazy Amazing Humans podcast, where we highlight everyday humans doing crazy amazing things, people like you and me who utilize their time, talent, and resources to give back, pay it forward, and make a difference. I'm Katrina Carlson.
And I'm Jefferson Denham. And Katrina, by the way, I need to mention that you look spectacular in your Crazy Amazing Humans t-shirt. Oh, look, I got one on
They're so
too.
Cute. Yes. And you too can get one soon on our website. So check it out when you have a chance.
Get your own Crazy Amazing swag. By the way, perfect. It's never too early to start shopping for the holidays.
Okay. No, with school coming, it feels like that.
So we want to thank you so much for joining us from wherever you are on this crazy, amazing planet.
Yep.
We believe it is more important than ever to stay connected, stay positive, and stay active. And if you agree, then you are in the right place.
Definitely, Jefferson. And we want to be there for you in any way we can. For sure, you do not want to miss today's back to school episode highlighting Claudia Saavedra, who is a first-gen college student. She was able to garner over $1 million in scholarships cumulatively through her application process.
Wow.
Yep. And is now passing on this college knowledge of tools and resources to help others navigate their academic journey pro bono. She does it for free.
Right. Now, going back to school, as we all know, is definitely different this year. But that doesn't mean you can't move forward with your academic intentions and goals. And Claudia Saavedra, the co-founder of FlairNow, an exciting new organization that helps high school students and their families navigate their way to and through college, especially for kids whose families have never attended college. She's going to show us how.
That's right. And it's amazing. And Jefferson and I are also going to share with you some very helpful information with regards to successfully applying for financial aid for college in the age of COVID-19.
Oh, man, it's so important.
Yeah, some rules have changed and they can really help you. So we're always looking to bring you the most uplifting and inspiring stories and practical information. So please check out our website at crazyamazinghumans.com and make sure you're subscribed to our newsletter so that we can keep you informed and stay in touch.
Also, by subscribing to our podcast on Spotify, iTunes, or wherever you get your podcasts, you'll be first to know when a new episode is released. And since we also film the episodes, don't forget to subscribe to the Crazy Amazing Humans YouTube channel. Our YouTube versions have extras like photos and videos that further tell our story with interesting and fun visuals.
This is true.
And if you check us out on YouTube, you can leave us a comment or a question and we will answer you. Yes. Katrina guarantees it.
Yes, I will. I definitely always look at those. So please let us know what you think of our podcast. We truly appreciate you. And we are on a mission to inspire you and remind you that you are crazy amazing.
I want you to feel, I want you to feel something crazy, crazy amazing.
Part 1. Back to school with Flair.
Okay, Crazy Amazing Humans community, we want to introduce you to Claudia Saavedra, who, along with co-founder Jose Dominguez, created FlairNow, which is dedicated to helping first-generation college students navigate all of the hoops they have to jump through to not only get into college, but to thrive in the college experience, and, most importantly, to graduate. Claudia herself is also a first-generation college student and is currently enrolled at Rutgers University, where she's getting her master's in public administration. Claudia Saavedra, welcome to the Crazy Amazing Humans podcast.
Thank you for having me, guys. Super excited to be on this show.
We're very excited to have you. So, all right, girl, what's your story? Well, okay, let's just start with this. What was it like for you growing up?
Yeah, I mean, growing up for me was a lot of different experiences. So I have 3 sisters who are older than me and 1 older brother. Much like Katrina, I know you had like a large family as well.
Yes, I do.
So I get that as well.
So wait, are you the baby?
I am the baby in the family.
Oh,
but don't worry, I wasn't the spoiled one.
I think I know you now.
I think I was the most mature one. I think it got flipped around. But yeah, I grew up in a small hometown of Hopatcong, New Jersey, in which it's like a very, very rural area in northern New Jersey, very close to like Pennsylvania. And so here, this town, it didn't get the best reputation. And so there were so many like external factors that I faced through. I mean, we are known as like the drug town. Here we're like more of the heroin addicts based on like different towns. So, but I think these experiences shaped me in a more positive way, and it influenced me in a more positive way instead of negative.
That's fantastic. So now you immigrated to the United States, correct?
Yeah, so for me, I was fairly young, so I don't really remember the entire immigration process of like coming from Chile and then coming here to the United States. But what I do remember is navigating the education system, because I really didn't have my family to back me up and really help me with the navigation in that. So one aspect is like getting to college and getting to my next step. I didn't even know what college was. So I think because my family worked really like 2 to 3 jobs like every day just to put a roof over our head and just to put food on our table, I didn't really get that one hands-on experience with my parents as like most children in America would, who come from like higher income families, in which that impacted the way that I went through the education system.
Wow. Now so that's some of the challenges that you obviously had to overcome. I'm sure there were more. In fact, I know there are more. We kind of know your story. We all know, and I think our audience knows, that everyone's got challenges. So what are some of yours that you've been able to experience and then overcome?
Yeah, so that's a great question, Jefferson. I mean, everyone experiences challenges one way or the other, and how we deal with them is such an important asset to how we live our life. And so one challenge that I faced through my life, but I didn't realize it until later on, was I was diagnosed with a mental health problem, in which I am a survivor of. So in senior year of college, I was diagnosed with post-traumatic stress disorder from an early childhood experience of seeing domestic violence within my household. And so navigating through that and not knowing that I've had this my entire life, majority of my entire life, and just finding out really when I'm about to graduate from high school, it was an aha moment of saying, okay, how can I better deal with this? And how do I overcome this?
So you said that you discovered this when you were a senior in college or in high school?
College.
Wow. So you made it through all of your growing years, right, formative years, all the way through college, and you had no idea that these stressors were having this huge impact on you, I'm sure.
Yeah, no, I didn't know. I mean, I think it was because I'm Hispanic, and so within the Hispanic community, we don't really go through mental health, or it's kind of unknown, but you're more seen like a crazy person if you have a mental health problem. And so I knew these stressors were coming up for me, but I never knew like what avenues I can take, or I was too scared to really be diagnosed with something. So I never seeked out the help.
That's completely understandable. I also think that now people are getting more diagnoses like that.
Thank God.
And
Yeah.
also has always been the stigma, and the stigma is lifting a bit now, which is great, right?
And you have to be brave, right? If your culture is saying, don't seek help, you can fix it, you're all right. And then for you to say, no, you know what, I'm going to face this. I think that's bravery.
Right. And you've done most things on your own. You are a first-generation college student, correct?
Yes.
And you said that you actually had to look up what college was. Can you tell us about that?
Yeah, so that's actually a really funny story. So it was actually in 8th grade where I just overheard someone talk about college through a conversation, because I was eavesdropping, like most of us do. And so it just seemed really complicated. And so me being a curious person, I go, okay, like, let me just find this out, like what this is. And so I just did a quick Google search. And then from there, I was like, okay, yeah, that's where I have to go. That's my next step. However I'm going to get there, I don't know. I'm going to figure it out. I'm going to figure out a way to do that. And yeah, and you know, funny enough, the summer before my freshman year of high school, have you guys watched the movie Spanglish?
Of course.
that summer before freshman year of high school, I watched the movie Spanglish, and that actually motivated me to write my first iteration of my college application essay because I related so much to that story.
Wow.
Really,
Thank you, Hollywood.
Yeah, well, there
What
you
do
go.
know?
Right?
I have to let Adam know.
Yeah, next time we see him, we'll let him know. Well, and you said that you're the youngest, and so your parents obviously didn't. My parents, by the way, were no help to me either. When I got out of high school, I saw my friends going to college. I'm like, what are you doing? I can relate to this. So your parents didn't know really how to help you. It's not like they didn't want to. They didn't know how. And then your older siblings, they never thought that college was a thing, right?
Yeah.
None of them went to college.
None of them went to college. So I ended up going to community college first. Currently, they're going to college, but I was the first one to finish.
So see, you showed the way, and they thought, what? You can do this? Well, Claudia's doing it. Maybe I could do it.
It's pretty amazing. You're a real self-starter. And I think that when everything comes from within, you're motivated to do that. You're getting things done. Now we're interviewing you because you have started an organization called FlairNow. You were just 16 years old when you started that. Can you talk to our audience about what your inspiration was for that and what you did?
Yeah, Katrina, actually, I never knew I started it. Literally, I was like, okay, I'm going to put together some workshops because when I found out about this idea and started doing my research, I was so lost in the process. But I knew that I had a lot more knowledge than my peers because I was doing so much research. I was literally dedicating 2 to 4 hours every single week throughout my high school years, just researching as to the steps I need to take to go to college. And so I thought, okay, how do I create a more structured way of demystifying this idea of college, and how do I help other people to get there? And so I convinced my high school teachers to let me skip class for 7 weeks.
Wow. Check you out.
Yeah, so I did it during every lunch period for 7 weeks. And so how it first started was just a series of boot camps in which I focused on various topics such as how to write your resume, how to fill out your common application, what are your tips for that.
Where were you when I was in high school?
I mean, I wish I met you back then, right? You're well off. You're good. You're doing your master's, Jefferson. That's awesome.
It took me a little longer than you, darling.
But you're there, so that's all that matters.
This is amazing. This is amazing. And you started this while you were trying to get yourself to college, and you thought, okay, I'm learning a thing or two. I'm going to share this now. Okay, 2 questions. What does the letters FlairNow stand for, and what is the mission statement, if you will, of FlairNow?
FlairNow stands for Future Leaders Accomplishing Intellectual Readiness. And so our mission is to bridge the opportunity gap. And we believe every student, everyone, no matter of their background, can achieve socioeconomic mobility and climb the economic ladder.
Wow.
That is true. And I love that message for everyone. And you started, I'm sure, in one place and ended up in another because as we know, all our crazy, amazing humans know that we start with certain ideas and programs and then they morph and change. So just in terms of your program, because you're still doing it today, which is extremely admirable, amazing, and we love that. That's so important. You started this in high school, but you didn't stop. You went 4 years of college or more, maybe, because you said you went to community college as well. And now you're in getting your master's. You're still doing this. How has your program morphed and changed over the years?
Yeah, so in the beginning, as I mentioned, it started off with boot camps. And then when I was 17, I said, okay, I need a name for this because it's getting a lot of traction. And then more people were asking me for advice, being like, okay, Claudia, I need help with my college application essay, all this. So I was doing more one-on-one mentoring with people. And so I realized, I go, okay, I have something here. I don't know what it is, but I have to do something about it. And so when I was 17, that's when I created FlairNow. That's where this vision has really came from. And so it started off with one-on-one mentoring online. And then from there, it started going into partnering with various high schools in which I developed a series of workshops for them, tackling not only the college process, but the career process, and as well as social emotional development skills. Because I think that's really important, especially if you're...
That's really comprehensive. So, you know what? I'm sorry to interrupt you, but
Yeah,
what
no
I
worries.
love about that is that you're looking at the whole person. You're not just saying, here, let me help you with the application. You realize there's emotional stuff that we bring to the table too, and it could be scary and whatever. And because of your background and your experiences, you recognize that, and you're trying to be as inclusive and comprehensive as you can be, right?
Yeah, of course. I mean, if you can have a goal in your mind, but if you're not really dealing with, I guess, the demons that are within inside of you, or you're really dealing within what you're facing and what your experience is, then achieving that goal, achieving your intentions of what you set out, is going to be difficult to achieve. So to have various practices to help students and to help people with that, I think it's really critical.
Absolutely. So it starts with an online community. You started actually at your school, right? Doing it at lunch. When did you when did you go into the online community?
So I went into the online community when I was a freshman in college.
Okay. And when you were at your school and into this online community, tell us about how, obviously there are college counselors for high schoolers, but they only can do so much, correct?
Yeah.
So you were kind of filling that gap, and especially for for certain students. Tell us about your, ideal, it's not a client, but, participant in your...
Yeah, because some people maybe don't need help.
Yeah.
But a lot of people, I would imagine, a surprising number of people do need help, and they're afraid to ask for it or whatever, from all kinds of socioeconomic backgrounds. Is that correct?
Yeah, no, that's correct. And I mean, I think what's happening in America as well is, so the average student to counselor ratio is 491 students for every one counselor. So that's something so big if you're putting it into perspective.
Can you say that again? 400, what was that number?
491 for every one counselor.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's incredible.
Yeah. How do you engage with people with that?
Yeah. That's rough.
That's crazy.
Okay, so now you
knowing
step
that,
in. Important program.
So we work with the schools, and so working with the vice principals and the guidance directors, and we identify students saying, okay, like, who do you think needs the most help early on, as early as freshman year in high school? And who do you think really needs it to for them to realize their own potential? Because a lot of times is you can talk about the term of college, and that's just a term. But then if you're not really seeing yourself fulfilling those shoes, then it's going to be really hard to achieve that goal. And so I think, honestly, working with the communities at hand and working and seeing what is the best way in which we can help the most students and the right students that need our help, I think that's how we start targeting the right students for our program.
That's amazing. So who works with you? Do you have people who help you with FlairNow?
So a lot of the times we're working with the guidance counselors, the guidance directors, we're working with teachers. So we're monitoring like where the students are at, seeing where how they are doing in their classrooms, and just having that constant communication like back and forth to have that more holistic approach of how we're helping students.
What about on your side, on FlairNow, rather than like the people you're liaison, you're connecting with? Like, do you have other former, people who you helped who help you now? Who's helping you with what your work is in terms of guiding?
So I think it's a more like mutual process. So we bounce back ideas like off of each other, between the guidance counselors and me, and saying like, okay, this is what I'm seeing when I'm doing the workshops. They're like, okay, this is what we're seeing when in the school system. And then we're doing it like that.
I'm curious, how many, I guess I got a couple of questions for you here, but first of all, how many students do you estimate that you've helped?
Yeah, so throughout the entire lifelong of FlairNow, we helped over 400 students nationally and internationally.
Did you say internationally too?
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. And then my second question is, because you've navigated scholarships and all those kinds of important things that you need to get into college. I know this especially because Kat and I were talking about this a little bit earlier too, that my lovely wife works at a community college and the financial aid department. And she says there's so much money left on the table because people don't know how to ask for it.
That's actually really true. So there's over 100 million of unclaimed scholarships every year. And so it's like, here's a bunch of free money that's left on the table that you can use to not incur as much student loans, or how about like no student loans at all? So what I learned through that is the value of community. And like what you mentioned, Jefferson, is asking for help. I mean, there's so many programs that are out there that are willing to help you, to one, helping you crafting your essay, crafting this resume and doing that. I mean, but something that I realized as well within the scholarship process is a lot of these scholarship reviewers are trying to look for your story and trying to look through what are the challenges that you face. Like, yeah, you could do so much within your community, but then they don't really know like what's the passion, what's the motivation behind what you're doing. And so I think really telling that and showcasing that, that's going to help you with delivering like a great application
to apply for these scholarships. So if someone were looking, where would someone start online to start looking for something that could apply to them? How let's say someone's listening right now, they want to know, I want to find good scholarships that would apply to my needs. Where would you suggest people would go first?
Yeah, so there's no really like a one-stop shop for like scholarships. That's why we at FlairNow, we're trying to like create that. So you can look up, like scholarships for first-generation students, scholarships if you fulfill this income requirement. So there's even scholarships if you have a certain last name. And so what we noticed was that there's so much information out there and so many scholarships that
How about for denim? Any money under denim?
I don't know. I have to look
curious.
into that.
But no, and there's also disability scholarships and different disabilities and whatnot.
And there's also like a zombie apocalypse scholarship out there.
What?
I'm telling you, there's practically a scholarship for, like, if you just think of it, I'm like, there's probably a scholarship out there for it.
Wow. That's crazy.
Okay, so now building on what Kat asked you, let's say our crazy amazing humans community is interested in this. How does FlairNow work, especially if it's online? Can anyone? You don't have to be in New Jersey, right? So how does it work?
So actually, our program is COVID proof, and so what that means, it's completely 100% online. And so what I mean by this is we're creating a common application for scholarships and career opportunities. And so you fill out one profile, and based off your profile, you get matched and applied to hundreds and thousands of scholarships and career-related opportunities. We're going to be matching people to various scholarships and programs, whether that's fellowships, conferences, and workshops, based off of their backgrounds and interests, and match them to like what fits them. And so we can make the search so much more easier, and then they don't have to spend a lot more time to seeing if they qualify or not.
So FlairNow, the website, is there, I think we were reading too, there might be a phone app as well?
Yes. So you could use it via your phone or website.
Very cool. And so you personally, do you want to talk a little bit about just what did you apply for? What did you get? What did you use in terms of scholarships and how you went to Rutgers and now you're getting your master's?
Yeah, so throughout my process, cumulatively, I've received over $1 million in scholarships.
What?
I never knew I got this much money until one day I was like, let me add up like how much I actually got. And so a lot of this came from the colleges that I applied for. So colleges, they have scholarships that, one, you can either automatically qualify for, or two, you can apply directly through their website. The website is FlairNow, FLAIR now.com, and we're launching this fall of 2020. If you subscribe early, you get access to opportunities where you get to speak with amazing and influential people. Former speakers have included the former Secretary of Higher Education, Mr. Duncan, and John Legend's and Meghan Trainor's music producer.
You've gotten various recognitions and awards. We found you through the Aspen Institute because they produced a really cool video about you and what you were doing. And we're here in Los Angeles. You're there in New Jersey. Can you tell us a little bit about maybe some of the recognitions and awards and how you got there, how you discovered them, how you went after some of these?
So I look at the bios of people and where they're at. So if they're leading like let's say Fortune 500 company, or they're a politician, a lot of times within their bios they have the awards that they've received. And so that's actually one avenue that I've looked at, where if they're part of a program or a fellowship program like the Aspen Institute, I look at their bio, I'm like, that's interesting. I wonder what that is. And then just start like digging in terms of what is out there and being like, okay, I can get there at one point. And then I actually start setting out like a spreadsheet for myself and being like, okay, I can't apply for it now, but I can apply for it later on in life, perhaps. And then this can end up helping me and towards of helping other people.
That's incredible. I mean, you are just a self-motivated self-starter. When people get curious and really look into what they want, you were motivated, you were directed, you had a need, and you weren't going to let anyone tell you no. You went to community college first?
I did.
How did that work? So when you were a senior in high school, were you applying to colleges, or did you just say, I'm going to go to community college and I'm going to figure this out? Why did you leave community college? How did that work?
Yeah, so actually the reason why I ended up going to community college was because it was a lot closer to home. And so it was a lot more affordable. So, I mean, although I got all these scholarships, right? But in the beginning, let's say I would get like a full tuition scholarship, but then yet it won't pay for my housing.
Yes.
I would have to go out of state, and then here it is like, okay, yeah, 4 years are paid for, but then I still have to pay for my housing. So I mean, that's a huge financial burden that I saw. I was like, you know what? No, like I can just go straight to community college, get the help I need. It's more one-on-one, smaller class sizes, which better fits me. And then it really helps me at a lower cost, saying, okay, is college the right avenue for me? Am I pursuing the right major? And start getting those credits out of the way and then going to a 4-year institution.
Okay. Yeah. That's completely genius. It is so smart to do that. I'm so impressed with the way your mind works, because that is literally, you're being so fiscally responsible, really, and you're protecting your downside, because we know so many kids now have these huge college loans. I'm also very aware of like people in LA who are applying, and they are first generation. They got into Harvard. Well, how are they going to fly there? How are they, what is the housing situation, or whatever? I'm using Harvard as an example, just anything that's like across the country. There are so many extra costs that are, hidden or otherwise. And how are you going to come home at Thanksgiving? You're not. You're going to have to stay out back east, or if you're in the east, you have, live in the east, you're gonna have to stay out west if you go far away from home. It's really a lot. And that was super smart of you to consider in high school, and knowing that.
And isn't that so true, that most people are saying, how am I going to get to college? And they don't consider the community college route.
Yeah.
And again, my wife works for one. I went to a community college. My son went to community college. It is it's not for everybody, but it's for a lot more maybe than people are giving it credit for. So
you got a great education there. And then and what was the name of that school?
So I went to County College of Morris. And so because I graduated at the top of my high school class, I got a full scholarship.
That's amazing.
That is so cool. On your that Aspen Institute video that Kat and I just love, you had said something that I thought was pretty provocative and profound. You said, many times in America, we operate in silos. What do you mean by that, especially in regards to getting assistance for college or just in life? What do you mean by that?
Okay, so I think that in America, this is just my viewpoint, I think in America that we are so competitive towards another person. And so what I mean by competitive is that we're trying to get to the top. We're trying to get the next opportunity. And so a lot of times is we keep that information to ourselves, and then we don't give that to other people. And so if a lot of other people start providing that information to others, like how much better this world will end up being, because more ideas will get generated, more dialogue will end up being generated. It's just by that simple thing of just sharing an idea, sharing an opportunity with another person, I think that's when we start not operating in these silos, not operating within ourselves, and start creating more of a community without even knowing it.
Yeah, and you've said that like your students actually mentor you, because you're kind of talking about people need to mentor each other, right? We can't be, not teaching each other things. In your experience with your students, how have they actually taught you things?
One of the biggest things that my students have taught me is that, I think I mentioned it earlier, it's just like really seeing the positive. And it's like, okay, yes, it's a very like cookie cutter response type of thing. Okay, yes, we're going to see the positive in life. And then how do we start applying that, right, into our daily lives? So, for example, I'm a very forgetful person. Like, I could tell you that right off the bat.
I'm sorry, who are we talking to? Oh, I'm forgetful too.
Like, I'm a very, very forgetful person. Literally, like, I cannot tell you how many times I forget my keys.
Oh my gosh.
I think that's something that
we
so
can
many
relate.
people can relate, right? And so, like, on that, like, I think, okay, well, I believe in, like, the law of attraction. It's like whatever you put out in the world, you gets reciprocated back. So if you put out good in the world, then you'll get good back. If you put out bad in the world, and then you will get bad, most likely. And so, although, like, just hearing those words, it's very simple to just say, but putting it into action is really challenging. And I think that's something I challenge within myself every day, or I try to. It's really hard because positivity doesn't really come out. And it's not really that easy to see it. And so, because I mentioned earlier, I forget my keys. And so sometimes, like, when I forget my keys, I'm like, oh my gosh, I am so dumb. Like, Claudia, like, how did you forget your keys this one day? And so I just thought, okay, instead of saying that, I like pause to myself and I say, okay, well, this happens. And so this happens. And Claudia, this is what happened to you today. And that's okay, because it might have happened to someone else. And so just really realizing that we all have this shared struggle and we all have shared challenges, especially right now when we're living in times where we're all struggling in this pandemic. And so right now it's such a critical time in which we have to start leaning on each other, whether that is guidance counselors, our teachers, our parents, our friends, whoever that may be, and really helping each other and uplifting each other. So, because we're all struggling at this moment. And so the only way we will get better is if we want to help another person and help them succeed. It's just realizing that. And realizing that everyone has challenges and you're not going through it alone.
Right. You're not alone. That's the whole thing. It's not just, oh, this always happens to me. I have the worst luck, blah, 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 or whatever. You realize
so it's self-talk, right?
Yeah,
you tell yourself, okay, wait a minute. It's not as disastrous as I can feel myself amping up, and you calm yourself down. And I think this is really helpful for all of our community and for me, for us too, to be reminded of this. So that leads me to the next question for you. Who do you, because I'm sure a lot of your students look up to you and find you to be a great role model. Who inspires you? Who do you admire, and who influenced you the most?
Yeah, I mean, I think there are so many mentors and people and community members that I've worked with, my students, that really have shaped my outlook in life. But I think really where my foundation of where my influence has come from and really making a change in this world is my parents. I mean, although like we grew up with not that much money, like we're just trying to make it by like day by day, they always showed me, they're like, okay, yes, but you could still do something for someone else. Like, I mean, it was weird. Like, I know a lot of people won't do this, and I know my dad won't let me do this, but I remember growing up, let's say, since we were struggling, like gas money, okay, we're budgeting that. And then how can we get from point A to point B? He would see someone be like walking home from work or something. And then he'd be like, oh, like, where do you need to go? And he would just like take them in the car with us. And he would just drive them
so
like
cool.
home.
That is, example, like, right?
We talk
Learning
about that
from
all the
example.
time. Yeah.
And our kids are watching us too. So we're parents, Jefferson and I, we both have kids, and it is true, that your kids are watching you.
And it's very true. And instilling those small little things, like you're not even realizing like what you're doing, but it's really, it opened up my eyes seeing it as a child.
Well, just like you're providing a path by saying, I'm going to do this action, and other people see it and they think, oh, that's something you can do. And then you watch your parents do it and you go, that's a way to behave.
Absolutely. And here you have said that your core value is love and generating love, which I love. So how exactly, and I happen to feel like that's a bit of my calling as well. So how exactly do you put that practice into your life? I mean, I think you've been talking about it this whole time, but if you want to just address that specifically, I'd love to hear it.
Yeah, I mean, for me, how I put it into my life is that, honestly, I think listening to someone else and listening to perspectives is you're literally just sitting one-on-one with them. And that helps you so much, because once you start sitting one-on-one with them and hearing their perspective, even if you don't agree with them, it's just understanding where they're coming from and understanding where they are and where they're at and meeting them halfway or meeting to that point. I think that's when you start reciprocating that love and aspect. So love can be either like physical touch or it can be an emotional touch. And so honestly, I envision a world where instead of saying, oh, hi, how are you? It's, start imagining, like, you start saying, how's your soul? I know that would be really weird if you start saying that to people. People will think you're a weirdo. But I mean, just imagine like what that would do in terms of creating the communities and creating like that connection within different people if you start greeting each other that way.
Well, I think that, you're showing and demonstrating just this wonderful capacity for empathy. And boy, listening, isn't that a lost art in the world today?
So true.
So the fact that you just sit down and you're able to say and look someone in the eye and let them know that you are present and you are listening. Oh, and then your cell phone goes off and then you say, I got to take that. No, you don't do that, do you?
Silence your cell phone.
But that is such a wonderful quality, and I can see why students and people and why we gravitated towards you.
For sure. Your story is absolutely crazy amazing. And I think on behalf of all parents who never made it to college and wanted it for their children, thank you for, and still want it for their children. Thank you for getting yourself there for your own parents, and then for everyone else who's, making that journey. I hope some of them hear this podcast. And, it's such a daunting mountain to climb to get into college, to think, okay, I can do this. I want to further my education. So you are definitely a crazy, amazing human, helping kids climb that mountain to achieve their goals and dreams. It's really incredible. You're providing such an important encouragement and service for people. So thank you, Claudia Saavedra, for being with us today, for sharing your story, rocking your beautiful, and making the world a better place as a result. You're amazing, Claudia.
Thank you, guys. You guys are crazy amazing, and I'm happy to be on this podcast.
Part 2, Navigating College Financial Aid in the Age of COVID-19. Learning how to negotiate the college application process with all of its associated hoops to jump through, slings and arrows, that's a job in and of itself.
It sure is.
But there are definitely many other aspects of preparing for college to think about, not least of which is, how am I going to pay for college?
Right? That
little thing. So for all of our crazy, amazing humans who are wondering this, or know and love someone who is asking this question, we want to provide you with some important guidelines that will be helpful to you in this regard.
Right. So we spoke with my awesome wife, Sue Denham.
Yay, Sue.
Who works in the financial aid department at a college here in Southern California. And she gave us some tips that we want to share with you. I should point out that these tips are for scholarships, not loans. We know that loans, sometimes they're necessary, but we felt it would be more important to focus on financial aid that doesn't put you into debt.
Yes, Jefferson, I like that. That's a very good idea. Claudia has the scholarship stuff down, but here's some financial aid guidance. First and foremost, every student should be filling out their FAFSA. FAFSA stands for Free Application for Federal Student Aid. Every student should be filing this every year. please make sure to write this down and this website to go to, which is studentaid.gov. That's studentaid.gov. The majority of students heading to college now will already have filled out their FAFSA because it becomes available on October 1st every year and needs to be done well in advance of the new school year.
Right.
Now, for students under age 24, the application is based on their parents' income from 2 years ago. So, for instance, right now, it would be their parents' tax return of 2018. But because of the pandemic, many families' incomes have been negatively affected this year.
Well, isn't that true?
That is true. So if you're a student with a parent who has lost a job or have had their business income significantly impacted, you may want to contact your college's financial aid office and ask about filing a special circumstance form. Now, some schools have different names for that, but that is usually the name. But basically, you are submitting a document to let them know that the 2018 income shown on your FAFSA is much higher than your household's current income, and you want to be reevaluated. So depending on what the adjustment to the income is, you may be eligible for aid that you wouldn't be getting if you don't make this contact and let the financial aid office know.
Right. That is just so important to know. By the way, dear audience, a lot of this information is going to be possibly a little dense, or maybe it's just me a little dense. But anyway, don't be afraid to rewind and re-listen to some of this and take notes, because it's really good stuff, but it could be if it's going by too fast. So speaking of dealing with life in the age of COVID-19, aren't we all? Here's another thing that you can apply for. It's called the CARES Act Emergency Funds. CARES is an acronym that stands for Coronavirus Aid, Relief, and Economic Security Act. This is emergency funding from the federal government to assist qualifying students affected by the pandemic. I'm going to guess that's almost everybody. Use your college website search bar and type in CARES Act and find their application. Do you meet the eligibility requirements? Well, you can be, quote unquote, affected by COVID just by your classes being online instead of in person, for example. So each school is allowed to set their own CARES eligibility requirements, so it can differ from school to school. Millions of dollars, Kat, millions of dollars of funds have been given to colleges and universities intended to assist students affected by the pandemic who may need help from the following categories. See if this applies to you. Tuition, textbooks, supplies, food, transportation, housing, child care, or health care.
Wow.
Find out if you're eligible and apply. Here's an important point, by the way. Eligibility is usually not based on your EFC, which is your FAFSA score, saying whether you're eligible for federal aid.
Okay.
Not based on that.
That's a lot.
Right?
Right. Okay. That's very good to know. That's another re-listen segment.
Right.
Another important point to emphasize is investigate scholarships that are available specifically from your particular college. Whatever school you're attending, go to their website and type in scholarships in the search bar. They will have a page telling you about their scholarships for which you can apply. Sue Denham, thanks Sue, told us that at the college she works for, oftentimes very few people apply for these scholarships. So please put in your application. You never know. Often it's just one online application through the school that will automatically submit you for every scholarship they have for which you're eligible.
That's good.
So you never know what you're going to get.
Right.
You might get something there.
Like a box of chocolates. Sue also mentioned outside scholarships. Now, some schools do not want to provide links to outside scholarships as they don't have time to vet everything that might be a scam, which makes sense. A good clue is, Sue said, if a scholarship requires an application fee, then walk away.
Ah, right. And so Brown University, which is my alma mater, provides a link on their scholarship page for outside scholarships. We're going to assume that since Brown listed these scholarships, they have probably been vetted pretty well.
I would guess.
But again, if any of these scholarship applications require a fee up front, stay away from them as a rule of thumb. But the website is www.college-scholarships.com. I'm going to say that one more time. It's www.college-scholarships.com.
So thank you to my awesome wife, Sue Denham, for these tips.
Sue.
And things can always be subject to change. So definitely establish a relationship with the financial aid office at your school to make sure you have the most accurate and up-to-date information.
Please give me money. Please give me money.
Hey everyone, so that's our podcast. We want to thank Claudia Saavedra.
Thank you, Claudia.
Thanks, Claudia, the co-founder of FlairNow, for being with us today and sharing her heart of service for others as she works to empower students to reach their fullest potential. If you've enjoyed today's show and you think it would be meaningful for someone you know, be a crazy, amazing human and let them know about us.
By the way, I will be sharing this episode. I know people who are going to need this information.
Yeah, for sure.
A couple of quick reminders. Make sure to subscribe to the Crazy Amazing Humans podcast wherever you get your podcasts.
Yes.
We've also filmed the podcast, so you can check us out on the Crazy Amazing Humans YouTube channel. Make sure and leave comments. We love to hear what you're thinking, and Katrina will answer you.
Yes, I will. Most of all, we want to be sure to thank you for being here with us today. Remember that every little kindness has the potential to create crazy, amazing human experiences, one person at a time.
Right. So as we always say, this week, we want to encourage you to find one thing that you can do to extend kindness and love in the world. I'm Jefferson Denham.
And I'm Katrina Carlson. Stay healthy, stay connected, and we will see you next time right here on the Crazy Amazing Humans podcast.
Something crazy, crazy, amazing.